it's Jackie. Today I want to share with you some of the spreads that I added to my travel journal before I even hopped on a plane. To me, it was important to learn as much as possible about the country I was visiting, and this was because I had had a previous travel experience where I didn't spend time learning about my destination, and while I was on that trip, I felt that I wasn't fully able to appreciate what I got to see simply because I didn't have the context. So in other words, I didn't know what I was looking at. So as you're preparing for your trip, I highly encourage you to spend some time watching YouTube videos, reading articles, looking at Wikipedia, or whatever else you can think of to familiarize yourself with your destination. And as you're learning about those topics, journal about them. So let's take a look at some of the spreads that I did for my Scotland trip. Okay, so the first spread that I did was just like an introductory page of the countries and cities that I was going to be visiting. So I do call this my Scotland trip because we spent most of our time in Scotland, but we did fly into London and I had never been there before, so I went ahead and included that as part of this trip. So you can see here we stopped at London and then we went to 4 cities or towns within Scotland. The next spread I did was just a map of the United Kingdom. And all I did was I printed out an outline on a regular sheet of paper, and then I put it behind this sheet and I just kind of traced it and then colored it in. But I also highlighted all the different cities and locations of where we were going to be. And, you know, just some fun washi tape and just decorated it a bit. I also wanted to include some information about what inspired the trip to Scotland. I'm a big Outlander fan. If you haven't watched the series, I highly recommend it. It's just a really cool show and it's, you know, really fun and just very entertaining. So one of my friends and I are big fans, and so her and I had talked about it and we had said, oh, you know, we should go there someday, and then we made it happen. So we manifested it together. So I just wanted to make sure that I included a little bit about that in the journal. And then I put more details about what the actual show was about. So I have some just kind of like the plot, who the main characters are. And then of course in Scotland, the clans are a big thing. So I wanted to just touch a little bit on the actual clans from the show and just tie it all together into, you know, the Scotland tradition. So just a little bit more about the show. I also included a list of the must-see locations. These were some of the things that really jumped out at me as something that I wanted to do while we were out traveling. And we didn't get to do all of them, but we did get to do quite a few of them. I would say the majority of them got completed and we got to experience them, but just wanted to make a list of those places that I thought were really cool. So as I mentioned earlier, you know, I did a lot of research on the countries that we were visiting. I just really wanted to have that context so that when we were there, you know, I knew what I was looking at. So I just looked up, you know, what's the national flowers, right? The thistle is a big one in Scotland. It's in all of their traditional items. The same thing with the Tudor rose. And then just wanted to see if there were like trees or plants or things that I would recognize throughout, right? And then they also have their country's mascots as well. And I was really surprised to find that Scotland's mascot is the unicorn, which was really cool. And of course we saw tons of unicorns while we were walking around. I also included a trip countdown, which I filled in as the weeks and days were going by. And this was actually really fun. We had a big group of people going, and every week or every time I would fill in, I would just send them a screenshot in our group text messages of like, oh my gosh, you know, we're at 8 weeks, 7 weeks, and so on. Just to try to keep that excitement up. And then I just started also entering some journal logs, right, about how I was feeling and just excitement about it throughout the days leading up to the trip. I also included a spread on the planning that I did. One of my mom's friends started me off with a good book about Scotland, and this is her note. We also talked about the midges, which are kind of like mosquitoes, but in Scotland, and they're really prominent during the summertime, so we wanted to go at a time where it was not as big of a problem, which actually really helped define our timeline for our trip. So I just wanted to incorporate some of, the information I was looking at and factoring into the planning of our trip. I also included a entry here about this sort of impromptu decision to go to the Beyonce Renaissance concert while we were there. It was just happened to be that we were going to be in London when she was having her show there, and it's just basically, this is all about how we struggled to get tickets, and we ended up getting the tickets, which was really exciting. So I wanted to make sure I included about that in here. And then this is the list of the songs from her album. So that was really fun too, just that whole experience of the tickets and being up in the middle of the night trying to get those tickets, since there's a big time difference. I also talked a little bit about shopping and the luggage, and that, things that we needed to factor in what we were going to bring. And then again, more research, right? I wanted to make sure that when we were in England and when we were in Scotland, that we had, proper etiquette, that we weren't being disrespectful, and that we really understood how things work. And actually, a lot of these items really helped us while we were there. But yeah, so just, good information. I wanted to make sure I had it in here, just, to learn about the culture and how we should be behaving. And then I also created a spread on our travel party, and just like how we decided who was coming and who was able to make it. But this is the group of people that I traveled with. So it was a really good group. We had a really good time together. Some more information here about the travel party. And then I did order some items before we left. One of the recommended items to get was this Oyster card for when we were in London, and it helps with the public transportation. And so I got this in the mail in advance of our trip, and I was super excited, so I wanted to put that in here and then have a place for it to live. So I created this little envelope, and I plugged it in here. It was really exciting to get mail from abroad. I also had the opportunity to talk to someone on the phone from Scotland when I was making a reservation. So that was kind of exciting, and then, hearing them speak with their Scottish accent, I was very excited, and I put that in here as well. And again, more research, right? What are the slang terms when people are talking to us? We wanted to make sure we understood what they were saying, so I included some slang in here as well. And of course, I'm a big foodie, so there were definitely foods we wanted to try out. So I looked up some of the traditional meals from both England and Scotland, and I noted them here. So these were all the things that we wanted to make sure we tried, and I think we tried all of these actually. Actually, I think the steak and kidney pie is probably the only one we didn't get to try. But everything was really good, just different. And then, yeah, just some more entries, right? Counting down just how I was feeling. 6 weeks to go. In the United States, it was National Tartan Day on April 6th, so I included an entry about that. And then King Charles had his coronation a couple of weeks before our trip, so I wanted to make sure I put that in there. And that was really exciting because we were going to be visiting Westminster Abbey, which is where the coronation takes place. So it was only going to be a couple weeks after the event had occurred when we were there. So I wanted to make sure I put that in here. And you can see, as I was, collecting this information, some of these symbols, you can see the thistle, the Tudor rose, the shamrock, all of these things are emblems of the countries within the United Kingdom. So it all makes a little bit more sense to me, now that I've done some research on the countries. Another entry about our preparations. And then I did put in this calendar spread just to kind of show where everything was going to be happening, right? Where we would be and the things that we would be doing on specific days, just to kind of give us a bird's eye view of our activities. And then a couple of more entries, again, counting down, talking about the excitement and the things we were doing in preparation. And then it was our trip. So this was actually the beginning of our trip, and I did this one after we got back. But yeah, so that covers all of the things that I journaled about in advance, and it was really helpful to do all of these things just because it really helped me learn. So I hope that this is helpful to you and it inspires you, and I'm sure that you can probably find other ideas online of things that you could potentially journal about in advance of your trip. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much.